says John. And supporting me tonight is Les, who's the Secretary of the Queensland branch. He's doing the IT. Tonight we've got two speakers, as you can see. We've got John from Noodoe and Michael from EV Stealth Solutions. And Michael, you'll be speaking first about your towbar stuff, and then we'll go into the longer presentation from John.
Sure. Well, firstly, thanks for having me, and good evening, everyone. I'm based here in Sydney. My name is Michael Hugh. Just by a brief background, I started EV Stealth Solutions, call it 6 months ago, just more of a product of my own frustration. I have a Tesla Model 3 long range that I bought back in 2019. Always had intentions to have a hitch or a tow bar for the car. Kept hassling Tesla about it. They said it's coming. I know the car is rated for towing. Through just the research we've done, it's approved. It's federally sort of rated for towing. Just waiting for an OEM hitch, I guess. Got a young family. We enjoy the outdoors quite often, go camping, and look, we waited long enough. And I knew there was a couple of guys and AEVA members that have installed a specific aftermarket tow bar directly from the States. I sort of did my research, made some inquiries myself, and sort of imported one in myself after sort of 18 months of waiting from Tesla. And look, I got one in. It was long, it was arduous, administrative nightmare. Had to go through freight forwarders. It wasn't a straightforward process. And at the same time, when I got it into Australia after sort of about 2 months, I actually needed someone to install it. And just being a sort of a pedantic person I am, and just a bit cautious, I wanted someone that could work on Teslas and electric vehicles in general. I had a bit of experience, even though really the tow bar hasn't really no impact on the actual EV itself. I guess through my sort of ignorance at that point in time, I sort of made some inquiries, and I wanted to go through a Tesla approved workshop. Got them the tow bar, and I said, look, I need you guys to install it. And truth be told, he looked at me and said, look, I've never done one of these before. It's not sort of our area of expertise. A Tesla approved workshop, just by way of background, is more for accidents, smash repairs, paint works and things like that. And they don't really fit aftermarket accessories, although they've got the IP and intelligence obviously on the vehicle themselves and the hardware. So look, I sort of refused to take no for an answer. I sort of said to him, look, you take apart Teslas every day. I've read the instructions. It's not hard, I don't think. I just don't have the tools or the patience. Can you do it for me? And he goes, look, leave it with me, and we'll see what we can do. And 3 hours later, I get a phone call and said he's done. And then he was the one that sort of put the idea in my head to sort of bring this more on a more commercial level. I guess, again, coming back to the product of my own frustration, it shouldn't have been that hard to get in an aftermarket tow bar that's, it's rated. It's firstly, it wasn't rated in Australia. We worked with another association, Tesla Owners Club of Australia, very similar to AEVA, who's a group of sort of Tesla enthusiasts. We worked with them to get the tow bar actually Australian complied and got it certified to a tow rating before we started importing on a commercial level. And I think that was the key to grow our consumer confidence. Not many people do know that the Teslas or EVs in general can tow and create a hitch. And admittedly, look, 70% of the groups that order our tow bars are using them, purely for bike rack purposes and biking. But there is a smaller percentage that do want to tow trailers and small boats and things like that. So yeah, look, we sort of launched in soft launched in May, June this year, and we've been had an incredible response. Together with the assistance of AEVA and through the assistance of TOCA, we've managed to sort of get it out there and sort of more give people the knowledge, because it is, to me, a nascent industry. It's a market that's still in its infancy. And I think through the rapid growth in EVs, people want to know about the versatility. And my goal was to merely share, I guess, our experience with towing and our experience with, showing the market and demonstrating to the market the versatility of EVs, because there is a preconceived idea that EVs can't tow, impacts on batteries, efficiencies, and things like that, which is true. And we're collecting as much data as we can from our customers, ourselves, our members, to gather as much information and share with the wider EV community about its impact to efficiencies, warranties, which consumers want that peace of mind, which I completely understand, because again, this was a product of my own frustration. So, you know, I guess throughout the last 3-4 months, just by sort of way of background, I guess we've probably done about, there we go. This is from the day, I think that's Luke Smith's car. So he was one of the actual TOCA members to actually import one himself directly. He was probably one of the first movers. In fact, I used his blog as a bit of a guide to importing, and at the same time, looking at his guide to self-installation. That wasn't for me. So, but look, in the last 4 months, we've probably done about 120, 130 Teslas around the country. My goal was to find an end-to-end solution for our customers, so to take basically the mind and the sort of the tedious tasks of importing, buying and organising the installation, whereas sort of I organise the full end-to-end. So, you know, I bring these in a pallet at a time. I've got installers around the country from Perth, Darwin, Queensland, North Queensland, Brisbane. We've got an installer now in Newcastle. We've got installers in Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne, and more recently Tasmania, and obviously Adelaide. So I've partnered with a mixture of Tesla-approved workshops. I think the Tesla-approved workshops gives a lot of groups a lot of confidence in the name. My goal, and I saw a couple of questions there about obviously makes and models outside the Tesla brand. Look, that is my intent. We've had a number of inquiries, for example, from the Jaguar I-Pace. We've had the Prius recently, made inquiries. The Audi e-trons, for example, we've done an Audi e-tron as a trial. You know, we look to bring that in. The goal for me is to understand and make sure that we can demonstrate compliance. You know, the first thing we jump onto is sort of the federal government website and make sure the car is rated for towing before we sort of market ourselves as towbar sort of specialists. And if it is, and if there's no OEM product available from the manufacturer, that's when we'll probably look to take in and look into take a deeper dive and see if we can bring it more on a commercial level. So look, admittedly, we've been focused on Teslas only at the moment, but you know, that is right. We are rapidly getting interest from other makes. We are about to launch in New Zealand because our sort of affiliates and associates over there, that there's a Tesla Owners Club of Australia, but there's also the Tesla Owners Club in New Zealand, has got wind, and naturally through the synergies there, we've managed to do our first fitting today with our Tesla approved workshop in Auckland. The feedback's been really good. So you know, it's been taking up a lot of my time. This isn't my full-time gig. It is a side hustle for me. So it's been a lot of late nights. My supply and production company is based in the States. So we have had a lot of late night calls around sort of, you know, getting it. Admittedly, the biggest challenge for us to date has been shipping and logistics. It's been a worldwide, obviously, conundrum around sort of global logistics at the moment. It's been tough getting in volume and getting it at a pace to keep up with demand. We found a sort of an interim solution. I don't think it's a long-term solution, but just with our FedEx priority account, our business account, you know, I managed to order sort of 15 tow bars last week, for example, on Thursday. It actually got to our workshop today. So that's, you know, 5-6 day turnaround. That's pretty impressive. So we can live with that at the moment, but it's not cheap, admittedly. So, you know, we imported our first pallet, and that took about 5 months when we were promised in 2 months. So that's been our biggest challenge, really, is trying to keep up with the demand and getting the production sort of guys in the US to sort of keep that up. So I will share just briefly the screen just in terms of the website. I'm not sure how many of you guys are on it. I don't know how to share it. Or maybe before I share the website, I'll just share sort of some of our customers and sort of how they've used our tow bars. You know, just in general. I don't sort of show this off to sort of say, hey, look what we've done and look how great we are. This is just merely showing, I guess, the group here today, you know, the versatility, I guess, of EVs, how our customers are using these tow bars. This is the customer here towing a trailer, and he's been giving us some really good feedback about his adventures and capacity and impacts to towing. You know, we've got sort of some North Queensland friends there, a lot of bikers, a lot of e-bikers, admittedly, wanting to make sure the tow bars can hold the weight. So our tow bars are rated to 100 kilos to Australian standards, even though it's been tested to 150 kilos. Our tow bars are rated to 1,000 kgs of towing capacity. So, but again, it's internationally rated a lot higher than that. But we don't recommend or quote towing to anything beyond that, even though the tow bars are rated technically to 1,500 kgs. But because the Tesla themselves, the Tesla Model 3, the car itself is rated to 1,000 kgs. We haven't really quoted anything higher than that. So,
Michael, we just got a question regarding a 2021 Ioniq, and on the back of that, I would like to tow bar for my bike rack, but I think it's not rated for towing. And is there a way around that? And with I have the Kona, and the petrol model does have a tow bar, but the electric one, I don't believe, is compliant.
Right.
Are you able to speak about that side of things?
From the compliance thing, so there's no real, call it sort of Australian standards for bike racks. There's no sort of hard rules. It's really when it comes to towing that you've got to meet a certain standard and test it to a certain standard. So, for example, our tow bars, even though they're rated to 1,000, they need to be tested to 1,500, so 1.5 times its capacity. So, you know, that will give comfort a lot of, that'll give enough sort of leverage and sort of, you know, leeway on each side if people did decide to tow a bit more than what it's rated for. Obviously not our recommendation, and, you know, we sort of encourage our customers to exercise their common sense and discretion when they're using it. So, look, from a bike rack point of view, there is no sort of, call it Australian standards. There are design rules that sort of talk about the center of gravity, the weight that it can take around it. And when it comes to bike racks and sort of disclosure, it's really governed by state laws too. So around obstructing your tail lights, for example, obstructing your plates, that's state governed, and most states will require you to have a sort of a secondary light system. So all our tow bars come with electronics, to the wiring to hook you up with a universal ECU with a 7-pin plug. That'll allow, I guess, our customers to hook it up to whether it's a bike rack light system or a trailer, just to sort of satisfy that compliance, which is real. So
we have another question. We have another question regarding if any of the people that have had tow bars fitted and then have towed trailers, how that has affected their range.
Sure.
And the picture I showed earlier with the trailer with Luke's red Model 3, that was my trailer, and I believe at the EV experience, the consumption was quite high from what I heard. Maybe you could speak more about that, but I think they were suggesting even something along the lines of even 50% of your range.
Well,
depending on what you're towing, obviously.
Yeah, and there's a number of variables, I guess, that come to it, and there's no sort of right or wrong answer in this, because there is a wide range. And I guess the efficiency comes down to not only how heavy you're towing, but also your driving conditions, how heavy your foot is, weather, undulation, whether you're using aircon and things like that. That has a general impact on the overall range. So it's hard to get sort of a consistent view. We're gathering as much data as possible, but look, to give you an idea, I'll sort of leave it on this picture here. This is a customer towing an indicative 500 kilogram trailer. Aerodynamic of the trailer's probably quite favorable because of the low height. The wheel profile is pretty low. It's not thick, doesn't have thick treads. So it doesn't have too much drag. he drove 80 kilometers, for example, using 184 wattage hours per kilometer, which is kind of the sort of metric they use. So if this was city driving, he was telling me that he's roughly this 180 for city driving with no trailer, just everyday driving, he's down to about 140 on average on the car. If you look at that while towing a trailer over 80 kilometers on a relatively flat condition going at 100 kilometers an hour, from 140 to 184, that impact's probably, call it 30%, 40%, roughly.
Maybe we need to do a video about efficiency of towing a trailer.
What's that, sorry?
We need to do a video about towing trailers and consumption figures, I think. We might just do one other question and then perhaps move on to John.
Sure, please.
There was a question about, have we investigated having tow bars manufactured in Australia as opposed to bringing them in?
Sure. Yeah, look, there has been. And what I understand through our sort of short journey is there are a couple, like, for example, we know there's a Melbourne manufacturer that's tried to do this, particularly for bike racks, because they know sort of it's not as hard and fast rule from a towing perspective as it is for a bike rack. So there are sort of some manufacturers that had tried to do this. There was a bit of backlash because the design of it wasn't necessarily not compliant. But if you take this bumper off, for example, what's behind it, and I'll see if I can bring up a picture, is what's known as a crash bar. So if I can bring it here, maybe it's on my desktop. Give me a sec. I'm not sure if you can see that. Can you see that? Or as I stop sharing the screen? Maybe I'll try this one. Can everyone see that, or have I stopped sharing?
Yep, no, that's good. We can see that.
Yeah, so as you take the bumper off, this sort of metal thing here is known as the crash bar. I've seen some of the manufactured ones, particularly here and also again in New Zealand. There are sort of local manufactured ones, but they haven't got it to sort of the design of our stealth ones, where you basically, once you install the tow bar, this basically goes back on top. So this gives less, I guess, problems for your insurer or your warranty purposes, for example, to sort of have any sort of traction of even voiding warranties and things like that. So, because I think this crash bar, for example, is a natural cushion for any accidents, God forbid, when you are sort of towing or using it. So there are local manufactured ones. I understand none of them are certified as yet, from what I understand. We don't have any intent to manufacture here locally. We've got a good thing going with Stealth. I think, our idea hopefully is to bring the pricing down, because with duties, the freight, taxes, GST, and those sort of things, they do add up, admittedly. But look, we'd like to think of ourselves as the premium end, offering that end-to-end service, take away the headache from the customer themselves that want the satisfaction of, not voiding the warranty firstly, want the satisfaction of compliance, and being able to sort of just expand their EV experience, in a more versatile area. That was really our goal. And, I think we've done that, quite well. I've been kind of a bit of a control freak to make sure, I saw through our first 50 installations, sort of, held their hand. But, right now I'd love to just hand it over to all the installers to sort of market, promote this and get it out into the market. Through our affiliation with AEVA also, look, we're giving all the members a discount on sort of our end-to-end service of 5%. Through all our installers, wherever you are around the country, we'll find you a solution. So, and look, if talking about other makes outside of Teslas, we've had a number of inquiries and I am looking into them. If you do have a make, email us. We can sort of do some homework for the customer to make sure, firstly, the car has a tow rating. And if it doesn't have a tow rating, all you want to do is use it for bike racks and things like that. Look, we'll make sure we can find you a solution, because we had a customer the other day that had a Jag I-Pace, for example. They know that in Europe they've got the tow bars, but they don't have it here. Jaguar don't offer an OEM model, and he wanted us to sort of find a solution for him, which which we're currently investigating now. So I'll take it. I'll stop it there. I know there's probably a lot of questions. Happy for you guys to circulate maybe my details and website after this.
I guess just one other thing, and that's, is there a list of people that are doing the supplies or doing the fitting?
Yep. So I'll show.
Where can we find your details if people are interested?
I'll very quickly just share my screen again if I can. Hopefully this works. Can you guys see that? I'm just on the website here. So at evstealthsolutions.com.au, pretty basic website. You know, showing our affiliation contact details there. Just our featured products at the moment for the Tesla Model 3 and Model S. In terms of our installers across the country, just jump on our installation page.
Okay.
I've listed them all there in terms of who we've partnered with in Sydney, Brisbane.
Well, that's easy. Yeah.
WA.
Okay.
And look, they've got all our details. So feel free to make your inquiries through them, or alternatively directly through us. And you know, more than happy to help. You know, when the time's right. And you know, like I said, if you know, obviously don't have time to answer all the questions on this forum, but feel free to shoot us a note, and I'm sure you guys, JD and the team, will just circulate my details after this call. I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Michael. That was very informative, and I appreciate you coming along tonight. John, it's up to you now, mate. We've got John Wang, who's the chairman of Noodoe EV Charging Solutions, or Charging Systems, sorry. And John will be giving a presentation on their automated cloud-based EV charge management systems. Go away, mate. Off we go.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me today. I'm John. I'm the founder of Noodoe, as in spaghetti, the food that you eat. And we see that in the next 10 years, nearly every city in the world is going to go through the transition to zero-emission electric vehicles. You know, over the 5 years, we are going to see 300 new EV models that will be launched into the world. And all these cars will require EV charging. So in every city, there are going to be companies that want to become a EV charging solution provider to deploy EV charging stations at shopping mall, hotels, highway, and all these places to facilitate the world transition to electric vehicles. And at Noodoe, our role is to provide the essential technologies that these would be tomorrow's EV charging solution companies, you know, will require. There are two things that they would require in order to become a deployment supplier or a solution supplier. The first thing that they will need is the software that operates the EV charging station. The second is the hardware, the actual charging stations themselves. And at Noodoe, we provide both of these. We provide Noodoe EV OS, which is a cloud-based operating system that connects to all the public charging stations. It runs every single step of the driver's charging experience. Like for instance, a driver walks up to a charging station and wants to use Apple Pay to pay for the charging session. Noodoe EV OS would connect to Apple Pay to process that Apple Pay payment. When the driver is having coffee, you know, in the coffee shop, Noodoe EV OS would send her a notification through the phone to tell her that your car is fully charged now. You can go move the car. When she goes to move the car and unplug the connector from the car, Noodoe EV OS would detect that and then automatically send her a digital receipt. Everything that we do is paperless. So as you can see, you know, every single step of the charging experience is managed by Noodoe EV OS. And there are also many other things that work behind the scene to enable that charging session to happen. That's number one, the software in the cloud. Number two, we also provide Noodoe EV, the charging stations that power the charging session when somebody wants to charge the car. So we provide Noodoe EV OS, the network platform, and Noodoe EV, the charging station, to EV charging solution providers. And in turn, these companies would install charging stations at condos, apartments, office buildings, office park, destinations such as hotels, shopping center, hospitals, library. These are the places that people would go and spend a few hours there. Highway pit stops, and then some special situation for electric trucks and electric buses. These are some of the companies that work with us right now. EVCS is probably one of the fastest growing EV charging network operator in the United States. They are deploying charging stations in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Oregon, and Seattle, pretty much building up the entire Pacific Coast corridor. EVCS use Noodoe EV OS to run and operate the entire EV charging infrastructure. Audi is deploying the Audi charging network in Asia. And Audi should know EV charging technology. After they evaluate different options, they chose Noodoe EV OS to be the technology to run the Audi charging network. We also work with Edison, in this particular case, Southern California Edison, to deploy smart grid. So in the greater Los Angeles area, when the electrical demand is at the peak time, Edison would send a message to Noodoe EV OS, and we would help to peak shaving, essentially lower the load of the charging stations in Los Angeles. Now, from the consumer's perspective, this kind of third generation latest smart connected charging station, they operate in a way that has superior user experience. Traditionally, if you need to charge your car and then you see a shopping mall, you walk up to it, you need to call the 800 number. Well, the Tesla user don't have to do that, but other drivers will need to do that. You need to call the 800 phone number to open an account. Sometimes they send you a membership card, which is an RFID card that you use to activate a charging station. But then you need to wait 4 or 5 days before you receive the membership card. Others would require you to download an app, go through a 15-step process to open an account in order to start charging. Now with Noodoe, this is how it works. Anybody, including everybody in this video conference, anybody can walk up to a Noodoe charging station, just take out your iPhone or Android phone, scan the QR code on the charging station, push Apple Pay, and the charger in front of you will just magically light up and start charging. That's it. It takes 5 seconds. Scan, pay, and then charge. That's it. There is no membership card because your phone is the membership card, and everybody already got one of those. And there is no need to open any account because your phone is that account. We detect that if your phone were an Android phone, it would say Google Pay, not Apple Pay. If you don't want to use Apple Pay, as you can see on the screen, you can use Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and different kind of credit card. So the payment is universal. Anybody can activate the charging station. And to the charging station operator, for instance, the hotel or the shopping mall, they get to service universally everybody, not just people who have a membership card, not just people who have downloaded and installed the app. Anybody that has a phone can become a customer and start to pay the charging station owner. Now, when you, like EVCS, own hundreds of locations and then build out a large charging network, one of the hassle is to actually hire somebody to drive around all these locations to patrol them, to make sure that each location is working properly. With Noodoe, you don't need to do that. We have cloud robots that automatically could patrol all these locations. I mean, think of EVCS from Los Angeles to all the way to Seattle. How do you patrol that? Right? You don't need to do that because the cloud would do that automatically. And in fact, the cloud would detect anything wrong, inform you. And if something is wrong at 3 a.m. in the morning, an algorithm would automatically kick in and start to recover the operation of the charging station, essentially auto repair. So next morning when you come into the office, everything is working as if nothing had happened last night. That's how autonomous Noodoe is. And with a cloud-based operating system, you can also manage and change the price very easily and centrally. You want to update the price, hit enter, and all the charging stations will get updated automatically. You don't need to go to each station one by one to configure them. So the result is that there is almost nothing the owner of the charging station will need to do, except just keep on generating revenue and almost doing that automatically and autonomously. So there are no membership cards to send or to get lost, no apps to download. We do have a Noodoe apps, but you download it because you love Noodoe, not because you are forced or held ransom to download it. You know, consumers hate it when you force them to download apps. No need to open an account and deposit $30. No need to call anybody. That means you also don't need to answer any phone call. You don't need to hire somebody to answer a phone call at 3 a.m. Right? It's 100% automated. It's a 24/7 autonomous operation. That's the software. So let me talk about the hardware. Noodoe also offers a full range of charging stations, ranging from AC charger, DC charger, and high power DC charger. You know, our XC-DC series it's the newest modular architecture. So it's a new way of building DC chargers where the charger can actually charge 2 cars simultaneously. So it's kind of like having 2 chargers for the price of 1. And a lot of people don't realize this. Most of the electric cars nowadays are 400 volts. But the newer electric trucks are 600 volt. The Porsche Taycan is 800 volt architecture. So the traditional 400 volt DC charger will not work. The XC-DC is 950 volts. So you can charge all the cars in the market today, all the electric trucks, the Porsche Taycan, and the new electric vehicles that haven't yet been launched, but will be launched in the upcoming 3 years. You would work with all of them. Now, the part I like the most is the extensibility of the software. Just kind of like the iPhone, you can install apps for special purposes or special scenarios. With Noodoe EV OS, you can do that too. We call these add-on systems. Now, one example, a lot of time, let's say a hotel want to install 10 chargers. And the electrical company go there, check out their panel. There is only enough spare capacity to install 5. So what do? Well, the standard answer is to do an electrical upgrade that costs about $200,000. And nobody want to pay that kind of money. If you have a condo association, nobody's going to pay $200,000 just so that a few people can install charging stations. Well, with Noodoe EV OS, we have an add-on system called load balancing. Without doing any change on the electrical panel, you can actually install 10 chargers instead of 5, or even 20 chargers instead of 5, up to 4 times more chargers. Now, this seems to defy the law of physics, right? So how does that work? Well, essentially, the total amount of energy is still the same, but we would channel the energy to the car that has empty battery, so that car gets full charge. But a car that has been sitting there for 6 hours and is already 90% full, we give them, very tiny amount of energy, and all total would not exceed the total capacity of the power panel. So instead of, in an apartment building, only having 5 chargers and then residents have to kind of move the car, in and out to take turn charging, you don't do that. We move the electricity, so you don't have to move the car. So in an office park or an office building, you can install enough charger for all the employees to charge without doing electrical upgrade. In a condos or an apartment, you can install enough charger for all the residents, so they don't have to share. Everybody can just plug and then go to sleep. And when they wake up, all cars will be fully charged. If you think about this, do you really care whether your car finishes charging at 1 a.m. in the morning or 3 a.m.? I mean, you don't care, right? As long as everybody's car is fully charged by 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, you're fine. So Noodoe EVO is essentially, take turn let residents take turn charging, so you don't have to move the car. We talked to UPS. They want their drivers to be able to charge for free, but other people will have to pay to charge. Can you do that? Noodoe EVO has a built-in membership management system. So the drivers, when they scan the QR code, it says you are an employee, so you get to charge for free. But other people, when performing the same act, you would say Apple Pay. So this allows you to differentiate between drivers and other people. In an apartment, differentiate between residents and visitors. In an office park, differentiate between employees and non-employees. Right? This kind of fleet charging solution is only one of the many things that we provide. We also have office building charging solution, residential building solution for apartments and condos. We have shopping mall solution with coupon code to give out to shoppers. We have hotel charging solution. At hotel, the hotel managers always worry when somebody just park there and then don't move their car. So what can they do? Right? We have a feature called occupancy fee. They can optionally turn on the occupancy fee feature. So if the people, if the driver don't move the car, there's an extra occupancy fee that gets added to the charging session. So kind of like a robotic way or a digital way of giving out tickets, right? So you have your extra stay, so you pay extra. Now, in a hotel situation, if a hotel guest finished charging at 2 a.m. in the morning, is it reasonable to ask him to come downstairs at 2 a.m. to move the car just to avoid the occupancy fee? Well, that was a rhetorical question. Obviously not, right? So we have a second feature called grace period, which allow you to set the time, overnight when, if the car finished charging between 11 p.m. and 8 a.m., there is no occupancy fee, right? So as you can see, pretty much anything that people can think of, we probably got them already. And most likely anything that they cannot think of, we got them as well. We also have automotive solution. This is what we offer to Audi. So they can actually link all the dealership together into one holistic charging network. We have gas station solution because one day the gas stations are going to wake up. They don't want to be the next Kodak or the next Nokia. So we have a solution for that too. We have charge point operator solution for people who owns many charging stations. And then we have smart city solution for government to manage all the public charging station in a city. So the takeaway is that EV charging is actually a lot of intelligence, a lot of software. Most people think it's just hardware. It's kind of like if you ask 100 people, what is iPhone? Is that hardware or software? Most people would say it's hardware because it's a beautiful piece of artwork that you can hold in your hand. But when you talk to Apple employees, they will tell you that almost all the magic is in the software. And EV charging is like that too. These are some of the photos of this kind of modern EV charging infrastructure. This one is in Arizona. It's in Phoenix, Arizona. If you ever go to Universal Studio in Los Angeles, this is right in front of the front entrance. Sheraton Universal, they offer valet charging, and they use the latest Noodoe EV technology to run the charging operation. This is one of my favorite hotels. John F. Kennedy gave his presidential nomination speech here at this hotel. That's how old this hotel is. It's 99 years old this year. Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan had their weddings here. The original 8 years worth of Oscar took place here. It's an American icon. And when this classic hotel decided to become EV friendly, they evaluated different technologies in the United States, and then they end up choosing Noodoe for the user experience. We are also, global. We have charging station in Canada, in Mexico. We are working with a company in Australia, in the UK, in Greece, in Malaysia, in Singapore, in Thailand, and then also in Taiwan. We work with Audi in Asia, as I mentioned, to deploy the Audi charging network. When you buy e-tron, they give you a connected home charger, and that's supplied by Noodoe. This is the Audi press event when they launched 4 models of new e-tron, and they prominently feature Noodoe as the charging partner. Because when you sell electric cars, the first question people ask you is, how about charging? And Audi's answer was Noodoe. Volvo is also launching new EV models, so we also work with Volvo to become their charging partner. What I don't show right here is also Jaguar. Jaguar is also working with Noodoe. This is a story from Forbes magazine. It says Noodoe is a cloud operating system that could transform electric vehicle charging. tomorrow, when there are more and more EVs that enter into every city, a lot of people equate charging, to be tomorrow's gas station, but that's actually not true at all. I mean, you would never want to go to a gas station to charge your car and wait there. You want to go to the shopping mall, you want to go to work, and then when you park at the office, you charge. When you come home and park, you charge. When you go to the library, you charge. So at Noodoe, we have a saying that tomorrow, parking is charging, which also means to a lot of companies that is looking to help every city to transition to zero emission electric vehicles. Every time when you see a parking lot, that's a business opportunity of tomorrow. So, I mean, that's how we, have seen the world. I mean, we work with partners in many countries to help every country transition to EV. And then we have seen a lot of success stories. And, I'm privileged to have the opportunity to come to AEVA's event tonight to share our experience with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. That's truly fascinating. I think I will ask you some questions personally, but based on the questions that have come up through the chat. And that's, when are you coming to Australia? Are you rolling out in Australia? And will it integrate with what Australians are already using, like apps like PlugShare? Will you be on PlugShare, for example?
Okay. We are already working with a few companies in Australia in different locations, and then to, because they want to deploy, most of these are commercial charging stations, not the home charger that you install at home.
Yeah.
So that's where you need to connect to the cloud. You need to process Apple Pay, Google Pay, Visa, MasterCard, and have that commercial operation, because the owners of the charging station, they want to generate revenue out of the charging station. To them, it's like a money tree. Once you plant it, it will just keep on making money every day. And then, so that's where, Noodoe technology really come in. So we are working with a few companies in Australia and continue to look for partners because EV charging is a very, is a very local business. You need a local company to come to the local hotel to do the installation, to the deployment, set it up, connect to the cloud. So it's a cross street between electrical work and IT works. And so we are already in Australia. The second question was about PlugShare. And yes, Noodoe is already working with PlugShare. So you can actually see Noodoe charging station. I'm not in Australia yet because they are not that, they are not yet deployed, but but you will see that in California, in New York, in other parts of the world already. So we are already working with PlugShare.
Okay, I guess one question that tends to come up regarding charging is ChargeMO going to stay as a standard for EVs, or are we going to probably end up seeing just Type 2 on the DC fast chargers? As your company is more around like in America and Asia and Europe, do you think you will stick with ChargeMO?
All our DC charging station has 2 ports, one CCS, either Type 1 or Type 2, depending on where the chargers are deployed. The other one is ChargeMO. So we do support ChargeMO. It is driven by the market force, right? More and more cars are coming out with CCS. I think that seems to be where the industry is centering. Even Tesla, starting this year in Europe, are CCS Type 2. So if you buy a new Tesla this year in Europe, it is already CCS Type 2. And Nissan already declared that starting next year, their Nissan Leaf would also use CCS. They are not going to use ChargeMO anymore. That's coming from the inventor of ChargeMO. So I think over the next 5 years, we are going to see more and more people deploying CCS charging stations. And then, of course, Tesla will continue to deploy the Tesla charging station, with the exception of Europe, because it will be CCS Type 2, even for Tesla in Europe.
Yeah. Okay. what else have we got here? If I lease space in a local shopping center, can Noodoe help me set up a charging station?
We are a technology companies, so depend on help us. Who us is if you are a electrical contractor looking to become tomorrow's EV charging solution provider, then you would, we would give you all our know-how. Give you, we have a program called Noodoe University that can literally turn any company into a, futuristic EV charging solution provider within 1 week. So we have done this, many times all over the world. So it's actually not as difficult as most people realize. So yes, we can do that.
Do you have, or do you provide information on the return on investment depending on what product is purchased? Or
yes.
Yeah,
yes, we actually have, just like anybody who, if you want to do sound business planning, you will have some modeling. We also have some spreadsheet template that we can give to, any company that need it. Of course, you can actually plug in your assumption. Hotel might actually plug in, there is food and beverage extra revenue when people are charging. They want to count that. But at a shopping mall, they would actually look at the model differently. And then some people are there to generate revenue because they look at it as a money printing machine when they install one of these smart charging stations. Others, they don't care. A hotel is not really interested in generating revenue from charging. They care about your $300 per night. Or they care about both. Maybe they want both $300 plus the $30.
I had a question about, you mentioned earlier in the presentation that you could have 5 or 10 or 20 charges. How does the bias work for the car that you want to slow down? Is it state of charge based, or is it the speed that is getting delivered to that car? Because perhaps I'm stopping at a charger and I'd like to finish at 70%, and then a couple of cars pull in behind me and they're on 20%. And I only want to get that little bit extra, but do I get slowed down because I'm on a higher state of charge? Or especially if I've got a Kona that's just charging at 50 kilowatts and 2 Model 3s pull in and they're drawing 190 kilowatts. How does it work? Is it state of charge or speed?
Okay, so let me give you the precise answer and let me give you a practical answer. The two actually are different. The precise answer is that it's software. So any kind of rules can be set, can be programmed. So anything is possible when it comes to cloud software. Now, the real practical question is actually very much about social behavior of human being. I'm always the first priority, let other people charge slowly, right? I'm always in a hurry. And then at the end, most of the charging station operator, they are fed up with people complaining, how come, how come JD gets to have first priority and I don't get the first priority, and at the end, they just say, we just split it evenly, so it's fair. Most, it's kind of reservation, can I book a reservation and then, and have priority? Of course, people want to do that. But once they start to operate that kind of scheme, you start to have customer complaining at the front desk of the hotel. So at the end, they would just say, first come, first serve. It's simple, it's fair, and it's easy for them to handle, and they don't cause anybody to be angry. So at the end of the day, most of the final configuration is just, if you come charge, you charge. If there are multiple people, they just evenly split the energy among all the cars. So it's fair. Nobody can get to complain.
Okay. And obviously you would take into account the full capacity grid supply that can be given to 20 chargers and balance that across the 3 chargers that are getting used at that time.
Yes.
In practicality.
So in practicality, and most of the time, because cars come in and out, So in reality, because we know this, we have been operating this for some times, in most situations, you don't even feel the difference because cars come in and out. And then when you come in, even though other cars are still charging, they might be fully charged already, but still plugged in, right? Or almost fully charged, where the cars already tell the charger slow down because I'm already at 90%.
Yeah. I think someone was asking for your very interesting early slide in your presentation showing 135 VW models coming to the market in the next few years. Could we possibly see that again? Because you've got inside information that maybe we don't.
No, it's public information. If you actually, comb through, just how much do you want to comb through all the press release?
Okay, well, we're lazy. We're being lazy.
Let me show that. So Mercedes alone is launching over 50 models. The way they count it is, if they have three different battery capacity, they count it as 3 different models. It's kind of like, the S class, the 3 liter, the 4 liter, and the 5 liters. They count it as 3 models. So
cheating,
all their cars basically, so they go through a model change once every 5-6 years, and then at the next model change, I mean, literally, if you go to their homepage, every single model will become electric. We work closely with Audi. They already have a full line of EV cars on their pipeline. And in 5 years, pretty much every single model will go through a major model change. And that's when you start to see a full lineup of EVs. So by 2025, Tesla will still be the leader in EVs. But you would have 300 models to choose from, and Tesla will be 5 of the 300. So it will be good for the consumer because you can buy EVs at different price point depending on the style you like. You have choices, so it's actually good for the consumers to adopt EVs. Yeah.
Well, we need dual cab utes more than anything in Australia because that's pretty much what everyone drives. But yeah, we'll hold out for that. All right. I think that's it for most of the questions. So I really appreciate you guys coming on to talk tonight.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
This chat will be uploaded onto the AEVA YouTube channel. And if there's no other questions, we can wrap it up there. Appreciate it. And thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Guys, cheers.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.